Good morning, Left Sporck. I'm here today to talk about really quick about my signs, the drama behind the signs. How this all started and why after 16 years I don't have it figured out yet. I could have it figured out, but let me try to explain. My dad always had a red and white sign where he had a white background and red letters. That's what my dad always did growing up. So this is where I grew up. This is where he had the pottery. He still has his little pottery here and makes pots. When I started my business, this was also where my location was. So I had a sign that was right where that sign is, where the open sign is now. I had my sign, and then my dad had his sign up there. So we had the same colors, red and white, to begin with. When my parents got a divorce at about the same time I started my business. A couple years before I started my business, my parents got a divorce. So there was, my parents were still friends, but there was also obviously some tension. I was in the middle of all that. The black and white pottery sign, that started. My dad made that really quick because in 2010, I got blueberry lips. In 2010, he decided to kind of half retire. So he decided to make his pottery sign black and white. At that time, I made my sign red and white, which was the original colors of the pottery. However, when my parents were getting the divorce, and during that time period, there was a time there where my mom was a little disgusted with my dad, but she was still friends with him, and she still wanted to help the business because she felt like she had started it and she wanted to be a part of it. So my mom, bless her heart, my mom went out and had these professional signs made. A little dusty here. So in the middle of the whole divorce, kind of at the tail, after the divorce, they're still friends. I'm starting my business. My mom had these signs made. So you can see the signs kind of red, white, and blue, and black. All three different colors. There's some fish in there. So, and I also had a sign made very similar to that for Sporck Tileart that my mom had made. So my dad always just made his signs. He just painted them. He didn't have them professionally done like that. And we put the signs up. There were those three colors like that, and they were professionally done. So you have to kind of imagine, I never had the original idea to make the red and white sign for my business. That was my parents' decision. Why they made that decision, I don't know, other than the fact that my high school colors are red and white. So I'm thinking red and white was probably a good color to pick in 1976 when they started here. The red and white there. That's my dad put the black and white up when he started the pottery. After we had red and white for years. So when my parents moved here in 1976, they put up red and white. And I think they did that. I've asked them, and they don't tell me exactly why. I would imagine partly why they did the red and white was because of the school colors are red and white. That's another sign my mom had professionally made. Red and white like that. So that was the red and white was completely their original concept. And then I come along, start my pottery in 2002, right after their divorce. So I'm kind of stuck in this. And then my mom had the signs made that I showed you that were three different colors, and they were kind of professionally done with like a airbrush. So when I made my sign, I was making it on the whole past red and white that my parents made when they first got married. So now they're divorced. And the whole reason why they did that is I don't know why they chose red and white. So I never have this idea of what color I should use. So I made my sign red and white and black like 3 or 4 years ago, because one of the reasons why was because it was similar to red and white, but it wasn't red and white. In high school, we wore red and white jerseys for basketball, and then we also had black socks were mandatory. So I was still kind of fresh out of basketball when I started the business. So what happens is I make the sign red, white, and black, and up here in northern Michigan, you really look around, you don't see, it's not something you think about very much. But now we have social media. So, for instance, I posted my sign with the red, white, and black colors, and 5-10 minutes later, you get someone posting something about Nazis and about how, and you get, it's almost like so I'm a nice guy. I'm also a hard worker. I'm tough. I take chances. But when it comes to doing something like that's going to hurt someone's feelings, like the Nazis in World War II, I don't like the feeling that I get when I'm thinking that I'm posting something that represents that. And there's people out there, and I know there's always going to be people out there that have a problem with something, but that's a little bit different. And like I said, when I first had the original concept to make the red, white, and black sign, I never even thought about any of that stuff. It wasn't even. I already had a sign up for like 8 years, so it's hard to explain all the different things that were involved in it. So now I go to Norway, and in Norway it's a totally different. It's totally kind of, it's a lot different. I didn't know if it was the best thing to do to make a red, white, and black sign when I'm in Norway. There are a lot of people that are concerned about that. Possibly, it's not something you talk about a lot. So the whole idea of whether or not I should do that, and then of course Donald Trump is elected president right when I'm like 2 years after I make my sign. So it's even more confusing because of all the crap that happened when he became president. So that's kind of the drama behind the sign. So now I'm left with this idea of what so now we have social media. So I post these pictures about my sign, and you have there's several people that all of a sudden on Facebook have these blueberry lips. They start posting stuff about colors and signs, and stuff starts flying. So you got to understand, if you start a business, and like in my situation here in northern Michigan, growing up at a pottery where the colors were one thing my whole life because my parents picked them out, then they get a divorce and I start my business right about at the same time. During that turmoil, my mom tries to be friendly with my dad, and she also is a little pissed at him, and she wants to act like he isn't taking care of his sign, and she buys him new ones, kind of like letting him start all over fresh again because now she's out of the picture, and kind of a stab at him, kind of a friendly stab in her own personal way, which I totally stand up for her and everything that she wanted to do, and helping and buying new signs, and my dad wasn't going to turn it down, and I wasn't going to turn it down. But you see, I never had this idea of what the colors should be. So, and no one, I have to decide. So it's just so that's the whole kind of issue about the colors of the sign. That's why I keep changing it. And I don't like it. even though I could have kept the colors of my sign, red, white, and black, and there's lots of places that you can see red, white, and black signs used in other places, in different shades of red, white, and black, I just don't even like to feel any of that. You know, when it comes to the whole, you know, another thing is I use the accent on my name, which is another whole story. When I grew up, you know, I never used the accent on my name. I don't know how to explain it. It was just like something I was told to do, to be a certain way. I was the oldest child, the first child. I was the experiment, kind of. I was the one that just did everything perfect in a way. And then my sister, she comes along, and at some age, she's all, you know, she really loves my dad, and she's a, you know, daddy's girl, and she loves her mom too. But she really is passionate about my grandpa's Sporck's umlauts that he had over his O, and so, you know, since my dad wasn't he didn't do that naturally as much, or I didn't notice it or she started noticing it before I had a chance to even notice it. Anyways, you know, I don't know if it was at some point I was using them and they told me not to, and I just forgot about it. I was afraid to because I would get in trouble or something. But at some point, my sister was very adamant and passionate about using the 2 dots over our O. And she was so much passionate about it so that the newspaper, our local newspaper, Leland Enterprise, they started using the umlauts, the 2 dots over the O. And on my name too, in the newspaper articles about basketball. So then all of a sudden, then it becomes this, in this local town here, it becomes this thing that everyone starts using the 2 dots over the O, for me too, in Sporck. So I just assumed for a long time that was Norwegian. You know, this is before the internet where you could look everything up really easy and Google, you know, the Norwegian language. And a lot of older Norwegian languages, they do use the 2 dots because, you know, it was a mix of languages with Denmark and Sweden. So I start going to Norway and I start seeing the slash through the O, and I start changing things around a little bit. So the 2 dots over the O is also used in Germany. So there's been all this conflict as to, not all this conflict, but there's this thing that was happening here with the accent over my name and my last name, and I just know that there's a lot of people out there, a lot of Jews and a lot of I don't even know who, but I know that the whole Nazism and World War II was a very very you know, awful thing that happened, and there's very upset still, and rightfully so. And you know, I wasn't alive to experience that in the same way a lot of other people were, the older generations. So I just don't like feeling like there's problems possible. So I don't feel like I don't feel good about that. So and then I see it. I see on Facebook and social media how they voice their opinion on these things. You know, how they talk about that. And like I said, you know, lo and behold, I start posting things about my sign, how I was going to change the colors, and then you get people on social media, some of my, you know, I have 3,000 friends. All of a sudden you start seeing people posting stuff about Hitler and the Nazis, and you know, it's just like, what are the chances? So I just want to change the sign to black and white. Just there, it's done. Now I'm not worried about it anymore. I'm not thinking about it. It's not a problem. I don't care that much. My tiles are going to sell no matter what. So that's the problem. That's the color. That's the thing with the color decision. I was trying to decide what color to choose based on the whole past history of it all. With my parents' divorce, my mom buying that sign I showed you that we used, and then having my dad retire and I have to replace the sign and decide what colors to use. With that sign my mom bought that was professionally made, I made the decision to do red, white, and black like 4 or 5 years ago. Trump gets elected, all that stuff comes out about him being Hitler and everything. It was kind of a mess. Not with me, but with the whole politics in the whole country. So and then I go to Norway. So that's why I'm changing the color of the sign. And I'm by myself here. I don't have a big, workforce that talk about this and spread the word about what's going on with it. And it's probably not that big of a deal anyways, but I just felt like I should talk about it. So that's the story on the sign. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.